All right, so now we come to paragraph 2. Okay. Now, if you remember, which you should because you just finished writing paragraph 1, in paragraph 1, you studied the name and author of the theoretical framework. So Dr. Francine actually did that here. Okay. All right. So remember, she used a 2-paragraph format because her theory was very broad in scope, right? So then she talked about the various components of the theoretical framework. So she talked about alignment enablers, right? And these 4 focus areas were organizational strategy, infrastructure and process, IT strategy, and IT infrastructure and process. Then she broke it down even further. The 3 components of organizational strategy are organized into scope, distinctive competencies, and organizational governance. Okay, this is all description, right? This is all the description, and this, so this, the second sentence is A, and all of this is B. So then she gets into the results of the study conducted by Roberts within the higher education confirm that both higher education institutions and lower communication competency and so on and so forth are related. So she combined paragraphs 1 and 2 into this one paragraph. Now, in the second paragraph, she follows the more traditional approach, where she describes the components. Each component of Lussman's framework has 5 levels, right? So she talks about the 5 levels, right? And she talks about the various levels here. Then she talks about what was expected. Therefore, based on the theoretical framework and the scoring system of the questions, it was expected that increases in scores related to communication maturity, governance maturity, partnership maturity, technology scope maturity, and skills maturity, and competency value maturity would be associated with increases in IT alignment maturity scores. All right? Now, so this is what she covered related to paragraph 1. Now, in paragraph 2, I state that you need to state the research question, state the null hypothesis, state the results related to the research question 1, state whether the null hypothesis was rejected or not, and then indicate whether the results align or did not align with what was expected that you already stated previously above. Okay? Now, Dr. Francine does this. She states whether the null hypothesis was rejected. So all she did was she skipped all this, which I do not recommend. You can do it that way, but I like to give a little bit more detail because the reader doesn't know. The reader doesn't remember research question 1. So I would state research question 1. But Dr. Francine, what she did is she said, hey, the null hypothesis was rejected for research question 1 as increases in communication maturity were associated with increases in IT operation alignment scores. Okay? So she basically said, she just started out with D, and then she said, therefore the results confirmed what was expected based on the SAM model. So she did D and E. That's all she did. I'm telling you to do A, B, C, D, and E. Don't worry about E. This is actually supposed to be F. Don't worry about F. If it's easy to interpret why that happened, then I would do it. Okay. But if you can't interpret or come up with a reason why this happened, why the results occurred, then it's okay. All right. So then she goes on to number 2. She says the null hypothesis was rejected. Again, so she starts out with number 2. The null hypothesis was also rejected for research question 2, as the overall industry increases of competency value maturity scores were significantly related to increases in IT operational alignment scores, right? So instead of going to paragraph 3 to talk about research question 2, she combines all of this together. That's why she only did the null and whether or not it aligned, because she wanted to condense everything together. All right. The results confirmed what was expected based on the SAM model. The null hypothesis for research question 3 was also rejected. Okay, so when your null hypothesis is rejected, that means there's a significant relationship, right? Because the null is there's no significant difference or there's no significant relationship. So if you reject the null, then that means there is a significant difference between groups or there is a significant relationship. So then she says the results confirm what was expected based on the SAM model, right? Then she goes into the null hypothesis for research question 3 was rejected. The results indicated that increases in governance maturity scores were significantly related to increases in IT operational alignment scores, and this result was expected based on the SAM model. So then she talks about research question 4 was designed to examine the relationship between partnership maturity scores and IT operational alignment scores. As expected, based on the SAM model, increases in partnership maturity scores were significantly associated with increases. So she does that for research questions 6 and 7. All right. So basically, she combined all of these. Instead of having 8 paragraphs where she describes each of the research questions and their findings and how they aligned or did not align with the theoretical framework, she just combined them all into one. And instead of having all of these, she just said, okay, I'm just going to focus on these 2, D and E. Okay. And if you want to do it that way and you have a lot of, you have a lot of research questions, I don't have anything against that, right? Use your own discretion. I always give people an option. I like to have more rather than less, right? Because it's easier for someone to say cut this down than it is to say add more. Okay? All right. So then they come to the conclusions. Okay? So we'll get to that in the next section. So using my system, research question 1, you follow this pattern. Research question 2, you follow this pattern. Research question 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you follow the same pattern. Okay? So write paragraph 2, all right, based on your theoretical, based on your research question, and then write paragraph 3 based on your second research question, paragraph 4 based on your third research question, and so on and so forth. Okay? Unless you want to combine them like Dr. Francine. Either way is fine. I just like to give you options. Okay? All right. Let's move on to the conclusions based on results.